Welcome one, welcome all, and we have a fun Super Bowl ahead of us. And as always, we have a Chiefs fan on a show, and our guy DC is joining me here. And we are a week away from pitchers and catchers reporting as well. So you get the Super Bowl, and then we're immediately into spring training and baseball mode, right, DC?
That's right. The Super Bowl generally kind of signals my start of baseball season, right? Get up all the old spreadsheets back, open it up, update them, and dive back into the baseball streets. So, yeah, I haven't thought a lot about baseball yet, honestly, but coming up fast. And once the Super Bowl's out of here, we'll get grinding on that. But first, Rubio, need another Chiefs Super Bowl, right? It feels kind of like an inevitability that they're here playing in the Super Bowl once again. And what a gift of a line we have. Just 1.5 points for the Chiefs. Wow. Excited to see what side you're on. And we'll see how it goes.
Last year, DC, a lot of people were against Mahomes throughout the entire postseason, right? And he made them pay. And the same thing kind of happened this year. I think a lot of people were really on the Bills bandwagon there, thinking that they could knock off the Chiefs. I've been on Mahomes. I just think that, what we have seen from Andy Reid and these Chiefs, they scored over 30 points for the first time all year last game, right? I thought I saw a pretty good tweet as well. It was one of those where the Chiefs didn't have to show anything during the regular season because they didn't have to, right? Because they were just so dominant. They were just winning every game. Even though they were close games, they didn't have to dig deep into their bag of tricks. Well, against the Bills, we kind of saw them get into those bag of tricks there. And I've been debating it all week, right, DC? I just think that I was on the Eagles. I think they were going to win the Super Bowl before the postseason started. I said the Eagles were the best team in football. They didn't look really that great against the Packers. The defense did fine, don't get me wrong, right? They didn't look that great in the second game either. What was that? Against the Rams. They almost blew that big lead there late in the fourth. Last week, they showed up. I just don't know what passing attack we're going to be getting from the Eagles this week, and I kind of can't wait to hear your thoughts on that as well. But they finally had the passing game going, but man, if you can't throw the ball against this Chiefs defense, they're still really good against the run. I'm in two minds, DC. My mind wants the Eagles, but my heart just thinks that Patrick Mahomes wins another one. What's your take here?
So I think the Eagles. I'm on the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs win this game. I think it's going to be a close game throughout. But when it comes down to crunch time, right, you get a close game in the fourth quarter here. Who do you trust to move the offense more, Mahomes or Hurts? And to me, that's very, very clearly Mahomes in that crunch time. And I do think we're going to get down to it, right? 2-3 drives at the end of the game are going to determine the game. And I have way more faith in Mahomes to deliver in that biggest of moments, right? In that clutch situation, the clutchiest of moments that you can have in sports is the fourth quarter of a close game in the Super Bowl. And Mahomes has proven he can do it, right? Time and time again. So to me, when the line's essentially a coin flip or close to it, how do you not go with the Chiefs here? And I just don't trust, Barkley ran so well, right, so far in the playoffs that it opened up a lot for Jalen Hurts to throw to what seems like a lot of wide open throws, right, to A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. If Barkley can't get going like he has against the Chiefs defense, which I kind of think they will do a good job against him, I'm not sure Jalen Hurts is going to hit the tight window throws, right? I don't think that's really his specialty. So, yeah, I'm on the Chiefs, obviously.
Yeah, and I'm just breaking it down here, right? You make the good point about Jalen Hurts. Can we really trust him? Because in those first two games, you could not trust them at all, right? You couldn't trust them to make a big-time throw. Only 128 yards against the Rams defense there, right? Against the Packers, it was even worse. Dallas Goedert was the only guy getting looks in those first two games. The big thing that kind of keeps me wavering toward the Chiefs here, right? I said it all season long. I didn't say it all season long. After week 7, I thought the Eagles had the best defense in the league, right? They've been playing pretty good. Don't get me wrong. They only gave up 10 points against the Packers. That's great. Against the Rams, though, they forced a lot of turnovers, but defensively, they were really weak. They gave up over 100 yards on the ground, gave up over 300 yards in the air. They were fortunate to win that game, and they did it because they were able to force turnovers, which, look, Mahomes hasn't been perfect this year, right? But I don't know if the Chiefs are going to give you the opportunity to do that. Last week, look, They had 21 unanswered in the fourth quarter, right? They scored 21-0 in the fourth quarter against Commanders here, right? It was a close game through 3 quarters, though.
People are going to call me crazy. The Commanders, I think, could have won that game.
Okay, so DC, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
After the first half, you could have told me the Commanders were the better team. They were trailing, and that you could bet their money line.
They had 3 uncharacteristic turnovers. The Commanders did, and I know the Eagles are definitely a fantastic defense and definitely deserve credit for causing the fumbles. But if that's what you're relying on, is the Chiefs turning the ball over on offense? I mean, maybe, right? But not 3 times. Yeah.
It's the uncertainty of will Patrick Mahomes and will Andy Reid even just give them opportunities to turn the ball over? A lot of these have been fumbles, which, look, credit goes to the Eagles defense. Forcing these turnovers isn't a complete.
It's like the flukiest event in football is a fumble,
Yeah.
So.
And this is where I come back to it, and I'm coming full circle. I think, after talking to you here in the first part, I was really 50-50.
I convinced you in 5 minutes to go with the Chiefs here.
Well, to be fair, I started really hard on the Eagles at the start of the postseason. I've been wavering back toward the middle the entire time, and I just don't see how Mahomes and how the Chiefs really blow this one if they're not turning the ball over. And you made the point too. Who are you going to trust, Hurts or Mahomes? Right? I mean, if Barkley can't get going, and he has been getting going every single game, don't get me wrong, he's been one of the best in the business, but I just think it comes down to quarterbacks here, right? It comes down to who's the better quarterback, which defense has been playing a little bit better, and I don't think the Eagles defense has been living up to the expectations, and it's interesting.
Do you happen to know which side the sharp money is going to be on? I haven't even looked. I mean, I'm not moving off the Chiefs, so I'm not that concerned with it. But I would imagine it seems like most of these Super Bowls, the sharp money is on the other side, because if you crunch the numbers, right? The Eagles are like, oh, their defense is just so incredible. It's like the Commanders move the ball fine against them. The Chiefs aren't going to get. I don't think they're going to struggle. I know the numbers would suggest otherwise with the Chiefs, but Rubio, the crazy thing with the Chiefs too, obviously Mahomes has been better here in the playoffs. They haven't even used Hollywood Brown and Hopkins much. They've still got more in the tank. So, yeah, I think that the Chiefs passing offense is what's going to win this game. The Chiefs passing offense, in my opinion, is going to be much better than the Eagles passing offense, which is, betting the game, but also, as we slide on over to DFS for Showdown, for SaberSim, that's where I want to be on, the Chiefs passing offense in particular.
Yep, and this should be worth noting, $1 million up top for the NFL Showdown slate on DraftKings. You also have big prize pools on FanDuel as well. We are also having a show, I think, every day of the week up until Sunday now. This is the first show here. We are giving away a bunch of stuff. It sounds like a whole bunch of hats, a whole bunch of single entry tickets maybe as well. Let me go ahead and just check here from Tony, because Tony's the one in charge of the giveaways. But he said if you sign up during the show and screenshot it on Twitter, so if you sign up during this show, this is a little bit unfair to the Wednesday show, people, but you will be entered into a drawing for a $100 single entry ticket. There might only be a few of you. So, I mean, I'm telling you right now, if you sub for maybe a week or something like that, and you're one of the only people, apparently Tony has given me free reign to give away a $100 ticket on this show. So, again, we'll circle back to that in about 15, 20 minutes or whatever, and I'll just get clarification. But it does sound like if you sign up during this show, you'll have a very good chance of walking away with a $100 single entry ticket. Screenshot that you signed up during the show and post it on Twitter at RunPureSports as well. And we go ahead and get these giveaways rolling. DC, you mentioned it. DFS and betting are a little bit different, right? This DFS slate, we'd always do, when AP and I do the SaberSim show, we always like to see what are the top 150 lineups just by projected score, right? Well, what's projected score? The projected score rarely ever works, right? Especially when the projected score is a $200 captain, Johnny Wilson. That kind of shocked me a little bit, but it does showcase, hey, there's a lot of studs on this slate. Getting these studs might be worthwhile. Do we recommend punting a 200 guy at the captain? No. However, this does show how top heavy we are on this slate. What's your initial thoughts on this showdown format, especially with the pricing where we have Saquon Barkley, $12K, $2K more than Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, To me, it's going to be a difficult showdown slate. You're going to have to if you're playing mass multi-injury, right? If you're playing 150, I don't know if I will for sure, but maybe you're going to have some teams in that group. I think Rubio that don't look real great, just because these are extremely top-heavy teams in general with very, very concentrated route trees, right? For the Eagles, it's obviously Hurts, Barkley, Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, and then I think you can throw Goddard in that mix as someone who can have a big game as well. But it's really just those guys. Like no one else is even offensively involved really at all, right? I mean, you're talking like goose eggs for everyone else potentially. I mean, obviously some players are going to get a catch or something, but who it's going to be beyond those guys is really hard. And honestly, kind of the same thing for the Chiefs. I've been surprised that they haven't used Hopkins and Hollywood Brown much at all. But man, they've been kind of consistent these last, in the playoffs and even toward the end of the regular season. Xavier Worthy, is clearly getting those targets right around the line of scrimmage that they're giving him. I mean, he's got the upside too. So I do really like Worthy. But it's a tough, who are the cheap guys that you can really play? I guess Juju Smith-Schuster is fine. Noah Gray I think is fine. I kind of like the defenses here a little bit. I'm curious your thoughts on the 4K defenses. I could see him getting there.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good point too. Like when we're just looking at the structure of the slate, right? And you made a great point. Both these teams, very tight target trees up top, right? Like you said it, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. Those are only three guys who are going to catch a pass really from Jalen Hurts, right? Saquon's going to get the majority of the rushes. This is why the defenses are a little bit better. Like you said, 4K, 4.2K, 4K for the defenses here might seem like, man, I don't know if I really want to play the defenses, but then you realize they're the highest projected guys, and there isn't a whole lot below them. Look Gainwell. Noah Gray will be popular. Juju Smith will be popular. Then you got to play Dotson.
Don't you think that the Chiefs defense just straight up beats Noah Gray? I think a large percentage of the time. I don't know, 70% of the time. Because Gray is going to end up with 0 most of the time. I mean, what's his? I could look it up right now. His reception prop is. I'm sure
running about half the routes for the Chiefs when I looked before the Bills game. Right, I haven't looked exactly here. And just to answer this question from our guy Kevin, these are just top projected score using the RPS projections. They look really gross up top, right? I understand that. When we do the sims, we'll do the contest sim for the $1 million up top. You'll see a lot better lineups. Again, we don't really recommend putting a $200 guy at the captain, but it just shows you how thin the pricing is, especially at the top, and then how little value we have. So go ahead, DC. You were talking about Noah Gray, getting beat out by these defenses the majority of the time, right?
Yeah, just because his probability of scoring a straight 0 is so high. Whereas I think the Chiefs and Eagles defense, I guess what we're saying is 5, 6, 7 points at the defense spot, I think could easily end up in the winner. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 1,000% on this slate. DC, Noah Gray ran 3 routes last game. 3. Now, I do want to get into that because he has been a critical part of that offense a little bit. Yeah, that's incredibly low, right? Like, when divisional game, just for example, he ran 12 routes, right? He had 3 catches, 13 yards. Now, that just goes to show because he's like one of the biggest rivals. Juju Smith-Schuster ran 18 routes. I do think one thing that we can make, a change that we can make on this show is we'll bump Juju Smith up slightly and we'll bump down Noah Gray. Now, when we talk about what are some moves that you can expect the Chiefs to make?
So right now, let's stay on that Gray thing because all the lack of snaps, I think that would happen for multiple reasons. One, Travis Kelce, they just use him the whole time now. And then 2, they're deeper at wide receiver, right? Way deeper to the point where Hopkins and Hollywood. So I think a good bet right now, Rubio. I'm gonna bet it right now. Gray under 1.5 reception, so he could even get 1. His best line out there is minus 125 on Fanatics, but it is at minus 136 on DraftKings. Under Noah Gray, 1.5 receptions because. Maybe he gets 1, but I think it's pretty unlikely he gets 2. So I think that's a pretty good bet right there.
Yeah, I'm with you. Those 3 routes last game, and this is one of those things that you pointed out. Travis Kelce being used almost the entire time, right? He's not going to rest, not in the Super Bowl, really at all, right? That's one thing that you can expect. Matchup wise, does it make sense to use that extra tight end against the Eagles? Maybe. I'm just trying to think of a case, maybe that we can go further into this as we get closer to Sunday and stuff. Who has a better take there? But I'm with you right now, DC. I think I'm going to hammer that under 1.5 receptions along with you.
It's a good bet. I think
he had 3 routes last game, and he had 12 routes game before, had 3 catches. Right? Who cares? Right? 3 routes last game. That's just insane to kind of witness that you're getting a 1.5 prop on a guy who might not even see the field for more than a handful of routes. So I do like that one a lot.
I mean, if he runs 3 routes again, the true line there is like minus 1,000.
Oh, 100%. You're not even joking. There is that. Yeah, if you ran 3 routes and 1.5, you're getting insane value at nearly even money there. So Noah Gray, the first bet on this show. I do love player props. That's perfect. And we can even lower him down to like 2 because 1 catch for 10 yards. I mean, that even if he gets 1 catch, he's not guaranteed 10 yards. He's a very low ADOT guy. Juju Smith-Schuster, 18 routes last game, 3rd most on the team. So that is something to kind of be bullish on. 4th most on the team behind Hollywood Brown, I should say. That is something to be bullish on. He's Juju Smith-Schuster. It's the same thing, though. He's at the stage of his career where he might be young on paper. You know, he came into the NFL at such a young age and stuff. But when you really look at it and you really peel back the layers, like, you have a guy who's showing up in the playoffs, a veteran, a guy who made some big plays over these past couple games, like especially against the Bills. He is definitely a better option than Gainwell, Dotson, Calcaterra, Watson. Now, I really think the most interesting play on the slate, and this is where, being a nerd like me, I love looking at the obscure plays, like, right, who can make a difference? Who has a chance to make a difference? Now, DC, we're both on the Chiefs.
Not being a nerd, being good at DFS. I'll give you some credit, Rubio.
When I really dive into Samaje Perine props, right? But we're both on the Chiefs. But in a Chiefs trail script, it's Perine the guy in the 2-minute drill, right? He is 100% the guy who's going to be out there protecting Mahomes and getting those dump offs late. That can't go unnoticed at 1.2K. I think his projection at 3 is fine, but I really think if you think the Chiefs are going to lose this game, Perine is the best value.
Yeah, the Chiefs could still win. I mean, he could be in there. He could be in there in the last drive of the game. Is there, down by 4 with 2 minutes to go, and Mahomes got to drive him down? That could be a Perine touchdown. So I like that call on Perine. Honestly, especially if you're playing Eagles heavy, right? If you're playing 3 or 4 Eagles, get Perine on the other side. Makes a ton of sense and super cheap there. Where at 1,200, I mean, even 1 catch could be enough, right? 1 catch.
You said it. 1 catch, right? Look how bad the value is. If Juju Smith-Schuster gets 1 catch himself, right, he's going to be very high owned. He's going to be well above 20%, I think, because I think you get down here, the clicks get really thin. Samaje Perine will also be a little bit chalky himself, but he might not have to outperform a lot of these guys. Like, he just needs 1 catch to outperform every one of them. And this kind of goes into the case too. Justin Watson, only 3 routes last week as well. Look where his projection is at.
How many routes has Perine gotten in these last few games?
So last game in the win against the Bills, 7, right? Nothing sexy, nothing great. Still, if you really want to peel it back, more than Watson, more than Perine, more than Calcaterra. Dotson is out in the game the entire time for the Eagles, so there's a debate to be had with him that we'll get to. But when we looking at here, in the divisional game, Perine only ran 3 routes because the Chiefs didn't have to push at all against the Texans. Yeah. They had that game kind of done, set, and sealed. I look at this. I'm kind of entertained by the Perine love, and I'm going to make a call here. I haven't looked at it, but I love this tool from SaberSim that shows you correlation. I wonder if he correlates positively with the Eagles defense, and the answer would be never mind. He correlates the worst of the Eagles defense.
Your theory has been debunked.
See, I would have thought that he correlated well, right? Because if you're trailing the Eagles only allowed 16 points, and the Chiefs are driving late on. But yeah, I mean, Perine.
I bet he correlates well with AJ Brown.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense too. Guys on the Eagles who on the other side of the ball where Devontae Smith, he correlates really well. Jalen Hurts correlates well. I do think you're right, though. I don't know if Saber's fully grasping the fact that he probably only does, or he crushes in a trail script. I do think crushes could be 2 catches here. All right, so we're gonna even just go
I
down to.
I wanted to go back to Juju because I'm not a Juju Smith-Schuster fan. He's clearly kind of washed. But Rubio, the Chiefs trust this guy, right? Like he's still out there in important snaps. I think it was 2 games ago for the Chiefs. Juju, they ran a play for him. I think at like the 10-yard line, something like that. It should have been a touchdown. He dropped it, but it was like a crucial situation that kind of showed, right, that they had trusted him at the time. And then even though that play didn't work last week, what'd you say? He ran 19 snaps, so
18 rounds. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be the most surprising thing if he scored a touchdown, right, on a little short kind of gadget type play, I think. So yeah, I like Juju and Perine both down there.
Yeah, and I do think that they're the 2 best plays when you really peel it back. Calcaterra and stuff. Watson only ran 3 routes too, but this kind of goes into what you were saying. This is why I just bet the under on it, under 1.5 for Noah Gray. $1,200 difference for literally the same routes, right? For the same routes ran last week. Does that mean that just because it happened last week, it's going to happen this week? No. Noah Gray is more likely to run more routes than Justin Watson. But the projection disparity, the ownership disparity will favor Justin Watson a little bit down low here. Now, I want to bring this up because I do think this is a little bit of a topic here. All right. We're going to go ahead and we're going to rerun the RPS projections, except we made a change with Noah Gray and Juju Smith-Schuster here. And then we're still going to talk about the studs up top. We're not going to ignore that. We still got, 25 minutes to kind of kill, right? I'm going to go ahead and just run a contest sim. And I want to see what grades the top because DC, we haven't talked about it yet. But you did mention, right? 1 catch from Perine could be enough. Well, could 0.5 points or could 0 points potentially be an option from a punt down low? It is worth discussing, I think, because we have seen it before in games in the past, especially games with very, very top-heavy guys. And is that something that you would even entertain at all here?
I mean, I'm not going to play someone who has no chance to score points, right? Like you have to, if the point you're making here, if you go down to the $200 guys in this game, even up to who's the cheapest? Perine, Calcaterra, Watson.
These guys are 1,600, believe it or
not.
Right.
But there is lineups, what you're saying, that have Mahomes and Barkley and Hurts and AJ Brown, and it spends all the salary. And the only way you can get those 5 guys is to have the $200 player, right? Yep. And so we have seen slates where a goose egg is on the winner when all the salary gets used up otherwise. And this seems like a perfect game for that, does it not? I mean,
yes.
So if you kind of accept that theory, then it becomes, okay, $200 plays make good lineups, which I think we probably both agree in this scenario. Who's the best ones, right? Who has some chance to get 1 point? You're looking for literally any point, 0.1 points, just to beat the other $200 guys. Because there might be only one that scores any points at all, right?
Yep. And this one is kind of a fun one to just look at, right? When we sort it by ROI for the Millie contest today, basically 1 million up top. Got a guy like 200, EJ Jenkins. This is the type of lineup you can build. You cannot get Justin Watson over him just for what it's worth because it, again, leaves only $300. Justin Watson, 6K. Are any of the 200 guys likely to score a fantasy point? Most likely not. I would put the line at like minus 300 that they don't score a fantasy point. Like it would take Nico. What was that?
You're saying collectively they don't score?
Yeah, collectively. I think it's like 3 guys. Like it's EJ Jenkins. It's the punt returner for the Chiefs, Nico, and then it's Peyton Hendershot. They combine for a 0.5. Oh, I guess Johnny Wilson can get thrown in there too. So I guess it's more like minus 250 or minus 200. None of these guys are going to run more than 2 routes at most, really. Peyton Hendershot will be lucky to see the field. He'll be lucky to do anything outside of a punt return. And then Jenkins and Wilson, I mean, they barely play as is. The type of builds that you can get, though, is what you just said. Look who you get. You get Kelsey, you get Mahomes, you get the 2 best Eagles guys, you get the tush-push merchant and Saquon Barkley, and then you get a Hollywood captain captain build. Like it's not bad, right?
So the fact that Hollywood is captain on this lineup makes it it kind of, I think, counterintuitively proves that this is a viable build because you can't get all the good players even if you do this.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And so it proves how I think it, yeah. I think I'm going to end up with a lot of Perine and Juju, I think is what's going to happen for me.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just discuss that too, right? Like when you just break it down, I do think that the fact that we don't have a ton of Juju Smith-Schuster here is kind of surprising to me. I do want to rerun it, but look at who our top ownership is right now, below 5K. It's the defenses. I mean, this is the whole reason why we started talking about this range was the defenses. If you get 5 fantasy points from the defenses, I think you're actually going to be in great shape. I do think in safe builds, though, Juju Smith-Schuster should be the most popular guy, should be one of the highest floor guys as well. He makes for a good play. But when you're just thinking about tournaments alone, like kickers and defenses, they feel a lot more relevant on this slate here, DC, and I think the ownership reflected that.
Yeah. I won't be surprised if we see some high scores from the stars in this game, but then there's going to be a lot of players who just don't, right? That 6th score, 4 or 5 points. I mean, we're already talking about any points from a $200 player or 1 catch from Juju or Perine. And then from the defenses, maybe you need 5 or 6, but that could be enough.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to head and rerun it. And let's go ahead and talk about quarterbacks while I rerun these builds too. You're obviously on Mahomes, being the Super Bowl, being the winner of the Super Bowl. I am too. When you're just looking at fantasy point projection, right? Who do you have, Mahomes or Hurts? I would have to assume it's Mahomes. I got to ask a question because the tush push is so relevant.
I can't stand Jalen Hurts, man, and this stupid tush push. So
Kills me.
I'd never play Hurts, and he makes me pay often, including last week. But I'll be on Mahomes. I think taking it a step further, the one thing that I really think people should consider doing is separating Hurts and Barkley when you have one as captain. Like if you're paying up for the captain on one of them, you need those touchdowns, right? Especially if it's Hurts. If you're captaining Hurts, I think you got to let Saquon go on this slate, right? If you put Hurts in the or Barkley in the captain and take Hurts, you're going to have such crap otherwise, and there's going to be other stars that score well in this game. So I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts on making a rule there of, if Hurts and captain, no Barkley in the flex.
Could be a rule. Max builds and like 3 entry max and stuff. I think that's smart because look, are the Chiefs going to allow 4 touchdowns? Are the Eagles going to score 4 touchdowns here? I think the answer really leans no, right? Yeah. And what you would need for that to happen is you would need Saquon to not only get like 100 yards and a touchdown, but he's also $12K. He's the most expensive guy in the slate. You would need him to go off, and you need Hurts to go off too by doing it on the ground because, look, his wide receivers, I know I got the quarterbacks up, but his wide receivers are not that expensive relative to Hurts here. Like, I know A.J. Brown's up there, but, like, you can make the case for Devontae Smith or Goddard then being optimal in that case where if Hurts is going off, like, he has to do it on the ground. I don't like pairing them up if you have one in the captain. I think it's fine if they're both in the utility, right? Like, 1 touchdown apiece could very much go a long way in the flex. But if you're doing it in the captain here, I don't like it. I'm in full agreement.
Specifically captain. If you're captaining one, I think you got to get away from the other. Of Saquon's 20 TDs in the regular season, just 2 came on throws, so you're unlikely to get it there. Yeah, just makes too much sense to separate them when captaining, I think.
Yep, I agree. This is another thing, too, when we just broke down the Eagles here. It's like the Sims are just kind of leaning a little bit toward Jalen Hurts, a little bit leaning toward Saquon Barkley being completely underweight on it, which is surprising to me. Not as high on Mahomes. I wonder why, right? Like this will all be updated by Sunday. It could look completely different. Who knows? The Sims still have 5 days to prepare. But again, SaberSim is one of the best tools.
It's because when you run like and projection against the Eagles' pass defense, it's so hard to put Mahomes with a ton of yards and touchdowns because the Eagles' pass defense has been so stingy. So, any model is going to take that into account as it should. But then you got to ask yourself, do you really think that they're going to stop the Chiefs' passing offense? I don't think so. I don't care what that they've been good. It's a different story. Chiefs have had 2 weeks to prepare. They've got all these weapons. They're healthy. It's indoors. We saw the Commanders move the ball. I think the Chiefs passing offense is gonna do well. I think Mahomes is gonna complete 25, 30 passes in this game, honestly.
Yep, that would be more than enough here. You also made the mention too, just the Eagles defense, the pass defense specifically, was one of the best in the regular season. It was the best defense in the regular season against the pass. 2 weeks ago, well, I guess almost 2.5 weeks ago against the Rams, they gave up over 300 yards for passing. Last week, Jaden Daniels did have over 250 yards passing as well. It's not like they're just completely bulletproof. And I know Q Mitchell went down in that Rams game, which did hinder them a lot. I don't want to just completely weigh that game. But this is the Chiefs. This is Patrick Mahomes, who has found his form.
Indoor, too, with the neutral crowd. Like, come on.
They're peaking at the right time. I think the Chiefs are peaking at the right time, and that's what matters the most to me. I'm going to up Patrick Mahomes' projection just because also it has to be noted, he's a good runner. Right? We haven't talked about his running ability, but he ran for a touchdown last week. He has the ability to run just as much, maybe not with the tush-push, mechanism, but he can score a rushing touchdown just as easily as Jalen Hurts almost, and even get more yards on the ground himself with his legs. I'm going to bump him up for that reason. Hopefully we get more when we do our final sim. All right. Most important thing to talk about, though, the Saquon Barkley and the Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco frustration. We already touched a lot on Perine. We are very big fans of Perine potentially at 1,200, where it only takes one catch. If you do think the Chiefs are going to be trailing at any point in this game, Perine, again, would be one of your best plays. But the Saquon thing, look, salary is tight. It is tight. What are we doing with Saquon here, DC? Are you above or below the field? And the field right now is going to be well north of 50%. It's going to be about 62% is what SaberSim is projecting right now.
I'll probably end up under that, just because I'm playing the Chiefs side more. But I mean, I've been riding Saquon every week during the playoffs. I mean, he's just incredible. Well, I've been a fan of his from the day he got drafted. I remember arguing, people telling me running backs don't matter, Saquon Barkley doesn't matter. Okay, how can you watch football and say that Saquon Barkley doesn't matter to his team winning football games? It's just absolutely ridiculous. So I'm a huge fan of him just in this game, and more importantly, on this slate, right? He's just so expensive that I'll probably be lower than the field, but not because I want to be, just because I kind of feel like I have to be to get other pieces in there. But I mean, the nice thing, Rubio, is he's not guaranteed to get a bunch of catches if they fall behind, right? He can have a truly bad game where he gets 83 scoreless yards and one catch, and he scores 10 fantasy points, right? That can happen. Whereas you get some running, like a prime CMC, they're always going to get a bunch of catches, or it doesn't matter, right? Which way the game goes. So I do think there's a little more room for a fade because of that reason.
Yep, you made the good point too. I mean, the passing ability is there, right? But they just don't utilize the short passing game with a guy like Saquon all that often, right? Look, at the end of the day, you just got to make a decision. You can't play every single guy in the slate. I will prefer Hurts to Saquon because Hurts is $1,600 cheaper than Saquon. Hurts fits my game script a little bit better. I'm hoping the Chiefs jump out to a 14-point lead early, right? And then I can just kind of jam in some guys Kareem Hunt would become more viable then. Isaiah Pacheco would become more viable then. Barkley's the best running back in the NFL. It's clear as day. What he has been able to do is incredible. Chiefs defense, though, not a slouch. I mean, they really are not a slouch at all. And this is one thing I just keep coming back to is if they can't get the ball going on the ground, and let's be honest here, they had a lot of luck over the past couple of games with fumbles and stuff. And I know against the Rams, the 26 for 205. And I'm going to sound like an idiot here. I know this is going to get clipped once he runs for a 60-yard touchdown. But if you take away the big runs, he hasn't really been that efficient. And he's been one run away.
Are the Chiefs going to give up a 60-yard TD on his first carry of the game? I don't think so.
It feels like every single game you start off with the Saquon's gone for 70 yards and a touchdown.
Well, sometimes it takes him to the fourth quarter to do it. So
Well, this is the thing too. It's like, look, we've both played Saquon this playoffs. I mean, you would have to be insane not to click his name at a high clip over the last few weeks, right? I am jumping off because again, it's a 1-game slate. If it was a classic slate, you have to jam in Saquon because look at the other options, right? You have 2 running backs, whatever. You don't have to play a running back here, and this is like the biggest thing is I'm just not going to fork over $12K for a pure runner half the time. And the Chiefs were a top 10 team against the run this year. All right. Like the way to hurt the Chiefs is through the air. They were 18th against the pass. They were really weak in terms of, I think it was against the slot. They were the second worst in the league against the slot. This is kind of that's a Devontae Smith tweet as well. But like, I just keep coming back to it. It's like, it's not going to fit my script. He's going to be insanely chalk. If I think the Chiefs win, I got to be low on Saquon. And I'm going to take my medicine there. And again, when he houses a 70-yarder to start the game, so be it. So be it. But I'm going to go out fighting at least. I'm going to go out with a take. Saquon's one of my least favorite plays of the day, DC. Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. That's my trio that I'll be going with a lot above 7K.
Sounds like I'll be either seeing you at the top or the bottom on this slate review because it seems like we're on a lot of the same stuff. So, we'll, cry together or hopefully be partying together with some big ones.
We'll be popping bottles, we'll be on a yacht in about a week's time, right? It takes a little bit to get the yacht. We'll probably be off the coast of Spain and we'll be sipping our anti Saquon Barkley bottles. I will say that. I want to get your take here because you being a Chiefs fan, I've been shocked by the way they've been using like Isaiah Pacheco. What happened? Why is Kareem Hunt the guy over Pacheco? I just want that, like, from your perspective as a Chiefs fan, why did that happen? What's the flip? And we're not going to see this flip back. Like, this feels like it's Hunt's backfield, right?
It's a lack of effectiveness. Look at what Pacheco's doing on the ground. He's not breaking any tackles. He's not making guys miss. I mean, yards per carry last 5 games, 2.4, 3.6, 3.0, 2.9, 2.5. He's been injured. He clearly doesn't have any burst right now. And I don't think it's coming back in this 2 weeks between the AFC Championship and the Super Bowl. So I think Hunt's the guy. I mean, I don't see – he clearly looked better last week. They trust Hunt. I mean, he's a veteran. Why? I don't think Andy Reid switches it up, with the biggest game. I think you got to go back to Hunt. So I don't love either guy, but I'm playing Hunt over Pacheco here. I wonder what the field does. Do you have the ownership on those?
Yeah. So right now, and this is about right, and so let's just go into the numbers real quick. Kareem Hunt, 17 carries last game, right? He has also been the goal line guy. He has been undoubtedly the goal line guy. Had a touchdown run last week as well. Had a touchdown run against the Texans.
Hunt has no burst, but he's very, very good at getting what's blocked for him in the short yardage stuff.
And 5 carries for Isaiah Pacheco last week, right? This is against the Bills. When that game mattered just as much as this one here, you look at what he's done in recent games, and the answer is it's not very exciting. It really is not. 5 carries last game. Let me go ahead and just get the advanced numbers up as well, just to see, because like you said, he's not really effective. Right?
I mean, that number could go down. If Pacheco goes out there, his first 2 carries looks like crap, they could just go Hunt and, Perine the rest of the way. Like that's something that could happen.
5 carries in back-to-back games, right? That's concerning. And he's not going to be the goal line back. It has been time and time again. It has been shown that Kareem Hunt is the goal line back. That is since Pacheco has returned. It feels like as someone who has backed Pacheco until about last week, because I still backed him against the Texans because I thought, hey, he might have, with the bye week, getting healthy, they're going to go to Pacheco because Kareem Hunt hasn't really been efficient. Like you say, he hasn't been like just tearing the place down. But he has been the better back, and I do think that we have to respect him a little bit. Let's go ahead and give him a bump because he is going to get the more carries. I just have no doubt about that. And we're going to lower Pacheco, and we're going to lower Saquon as well, just to show we're not going to bump down too much, but I do want people to see, like, even though he's not popping right now, this is something that I do want to showcase that we are lower on him than most. All right, so let me go ahead and talk about Gainwell, Shipley. Gainwell should be back. He had a concussion. in that game last time out, but I imagine that he would be okay by the time this game kicks off. Shipley would be the second running back in line if Gainwell was out, but otherwise he'd be in line for an extremely limited role and be lucky to play at all. Gainwell, 3,400, feels like a bit of a turnoff, right?
I'm not playing Gainwell at 3,400. No.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to find the passing numbers here on the Chiefs as well, because when I go ahead and just break it down further about why Pacheco is just such a bad play, I think this week, and cue the screen cap once he scores. But Pacheco, 10 routes last game. That's actually halfway promising. Hunt, 10 routes last game. So I guess if there was a case for Pacheco, maybe he gets it done with a big play from Mahomes. Again, still not on him at 5.2K though. Could he get there with a straight touchdown? Absolutely, especially on this slate. But again, we're not going to be buying in on him.
I got a couple Pacheco props, couple unders here.
Oh, okay.
Under on rushing yards is 23.5 on bet 365. That's minus 110. That's a good bet for Pacheco, no question. He's been under what, 4 or 5 straight games? I mean, and then the one I like even better, under on longest rush of 8.5. I like get that at minus 130. I mean, when's the last time this guy had an 8.5? Like, it's just not happening for Pacheco right now.
When he had the 40-yard run in his return and still didn't go over his 50-yard prop that I've had, that killed me on the inside.
Yeah, I guess he's been right around 8 a couple games, but still, I like the under there.
Yep, I do too, especially if, like you said, a couple bad runs to start the game, you could easily see them up for the other two. All right, wide receiver time. Now, this is the most interesting thing on the slate. We already talked about Noah Gray and stuff too on the tight ends wise, but we'll still talk about Goddard and Kelsey in just a moment. We already talked about the defenses as well. So this is one of our last things that we're going to cover here. Chiefs, second worst against the slot this year, right? In terms of just yards given up a game against the slot, they are actually one of the worst teams at defending it. Now, the Eagles are not the greatest team in the world at throwing the football, but they do run the slot, run 3 wide receivers almost all the time, and then you'll have Goddard or Smith in the slot getting the majority of the snaps. A.J. Brown is still a good click, but I do think my favorite wide receiver on this slate, DC, is Devontae Smith, and that is still, I would say, I take that back. My second favorite receiver on the slate is Devontae Smith. My first would be Xavier Worthy, because you mentioned it earlier. What they're doing with Xavier Worthy, what did we see at the start of the season with Rashee Rice, right? It was a lot of short throws, a lot of stuff that were like extension of the run game, as man going calls it.
Every game with Worthy. He's going to get his chances on these little swing passes, pop passes, right? Wide receiver screens. And they do it in the red zone as well. So I love it.
Yeah, and like the PPR points add up on a site like DraftKings. You give him a screen there and he breaks it for 10 yards, 2 points right there. But also
and Rubio, to have the combination of those kind of guaranteed PPR points that it appears that Worthy has at this point, and game-breaking ability on any touch, any play to get behind the defense and score a 70-yard touchdown, right? That's his real skill. Now they're using him as the PPR machine. You combine the two, and that's a really, really good fantasy play.
Yep, and his price is not crazy at all. Like, I really think he should be closer to A.J. Brown than 8K, right? Like, I just think that he is the kind of the clear guy.
Really the best chief after Mahomes, I think, is Worthy.
So that would be an interesting one to talk about when we get to Kelsey. A.J. Brown ghosted the first 2 playoff games, right? And then last week has a big game, especially in that first half. I like Jalen Hurts. I don't like Saquon, as we know. I love Devontae Smith. I do like Goddard a lot. I am very in between on A.J. Brown because I don't know which A.J. Brown we're going to get. Last game, 6 for 96 and 1. They threw the ball a lot, but it's not like the target share was just insane, right? It was only 8 targets. He turned that into 6 for 96. It's great. He had a couple big plays. But again, I only have so much limited salary. Like, I can only spend for so many guys. Like Mahomes and Hurts, I'd rather spend those 2. Worthy, Smith, Goddard, Kelsey. A.J. Brown quickly falls below those guys for me. What's your take on AJB at 9,600?
I'll be lower on him just because I'm playing the Chiefs passing game a lot. Like you said, I mean, if you're choosing between Mahomes and A.J. Brown, I think in the flex, I think it's easy Mahomes. the majority of the time. I mean, I think Kelsey even has the higher floor than AJ Brown, which is kind of weird to talk about floors, but I think it's fair on this particular showdown slate to mention it. I think it's important. And then, yeah, Worthy Smith. I like Goddard a ton down there at 5,800, clearly feeling good, healthy. I think he's a good. I did want to bring up before I forget. Did you notice the two weird Goddard end arounds that they ran against Washington?
Yes, and that is something is very effective. They do it all the time. That
No,
was
they
Goddard.
don't. Those were Goddard's first 2 carries of the season.
What? No way! I would not have guessed that because hasn't he been a factor in the tush push before as well?
Well,
or is that
No, those are his first 2. So, and they were like weird plays. So, in my opinion, just me speculating, I don't think they use those plays, those 2 rush attempts on end arounds to Goddard. I don't think they called them necessarily for the yardage that they were going to get against the Commanders. I think it was to set up a trick play against the Chiefs where they're going to do an end around to Goddard. Maybe Goddard pitches it back to Devonta Smith for a throw to AJ Brown down the field, something like that. So I don't know how to bet that. I've been thinking about it, but
there will be something closer to lock, I assume, like closer to where these trick plays kind of come up. Where how many players will complete a pass, right? The over 2.5 is always an option. I think that happens on DraftKings.
When Dallas Goedert is keenly involved in a Eagles trick play, remember me. That's a call I've got. For this.
I do love that call. You know what? I must have just had him confused with Mark Andrews, who ran like those. Tush push. Because I thought Goddard had a tush push like recently, but I guess he does not. That is crazy to me.
And they ran like the same play twice. They're definitely setting up something for the Super Bowl, I think.
Yep, I agree. DC, I'm trying to find. Yep, here we go. All right, I'm gonna pass attempt, not even a pass completion. Plus 180 over 2.5. So I mean, if you did want to have a pass attempt, doesn't even have to be completed. You would have over 2.5 at plus 180. So that is on DraftKings. It's under SB LIX special, Super Bowl 59 specials. If you scroll all the way to the right at the top, it's next to DK squares and right before first drive. So that is a bet that would be fun, and it kind of goes in line with what you've said about those trick plays. Another thing that I like to kind of stumble upon, because when we're talking about wide receivers and stuff, the Chiefs prop for total players with a reception is 8.5. It's just absurd to kind of hear aloud. 8.5 for the Eagles. It is 5.5 for comparison. So when you look at the Chiefs here, I wonder if there's value on that under as well. The under is minus 175, so it's not like amazing or anything like that. But I was wondering if you
isn't like 9 the max. I mean, it's got to be close to the max. It's crazy.
10 guys ran a route last game for the Chiefs.
10,
right? Watson and Gray both ran 3 routes apiece. Perine ran 7 with a catch. Hopkins ran 9 with a couple catches, with 1 catch. Pacheco and Hunt both had a catch last game. I think the odds are correct. Don't get me wrong, but look, you had 6 routes.
That's a good bet. That's a good bet on the under 8.5. What is it? Where is that? Where can you find it?
Right under Super Bowl LIX specials, right under Super Bowl 59 specials. It's if you keep scrolling, you'll find a whole bunch of cool props, right? And those props are kind of interesting where you have quarterbacks to throw for 25 yards in each quarter and stuff. I mean, DraftKings has a load of stuff here as well. So, yeah, that's very intriguing to kind of look at. How many times have the Chiefs had 9 players with the reception in a game this season? See, this is the type of stuff I will gladly nerd out for while DC talks to me about Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, and then you can also just lump in Jahan Dotson in there as well. I know that Hollywood Brown, I think we're both going to be a little bullish on, right?
Yeah. You find that pertinent information. And I mean, I don't see any reason why Hollywood Brown or Hopkins. I think it could turn. I know we're high on Worthy, but Hollywood Brown over Hopkins. He's had a couple close calls, almost had a touchdown. I think in each of the last 2 games, couldn't quite come up with it. 5,400. He feels good to me at that price point. You got to imagine still kind of getting healthier. Another 2 weeks off, another 2 weeks to kind of be integrated into the offense. So yeah, give me Hollywood Brown. Hopkins, I think he's okay at 4,400, but clearly he's fallen behind the younger players and Travis Kelce here. So, yeah, Brown over Hopkins. I'll still have Hopkins mixed in just because I'm going to have a lot of Mahomes on my teams. But, yeah, don't mind going down to Schuster or Perine if we're going cheaper Chiefs pass catchers. Did you find the answer, Rubio?
Yeah, so in weeks 10, 11, 12, and 13, and I haven't gotten before that, they did have 9 pass catchers in each of those games. Right. Since week 13, they have not had 9 guys catch a pass. And that I excluded week 18 because that is a game where the Chiefs were more thin. They didn't play everyone. But if you went through it, that is 6 straight games without this occurring at minus 175. You also start to thin up these kind of snaps. Like, look, I think you're almost betting against Gray and Watson not playing a ton, right? But you're also just saying like one of Hunt, Pacheco, Perine, or Hopkins don't get a catch. And that is extremely possible. I do like that bet, even though it's minus 175. If it is parlayable, I don't know if it is, but I do like throwing that into some unique Super Bowl parlays. I don't know if they'll allow you to do that, though. But again, that has not happened since week 13. Also, just a fun one, too, is in the divisional game, only 4 Chiefs caught a pass. So just something to think about there.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it can go over by 1, but it could go under by like 3 or 4. So it's got to be.
The only way it goes over is by 1. There's no shot 10 guys are catching.
It's like a crazy line. Yeah, I'm with you.
Real quick. So I'm just trying to think. I haven't checked the actives and inactives. Is there anyone coming back from injury for this one potentially on either side of the ball? And more specifically, it was McCole Hardman, and he will not be returning. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because he would be a guy who kind of throws a wrench into that because he would not only would he return punts, but he would also be a factor probably in the passing game. But he is not going to return. I'm glad we found that. I'm glad that we did some digging and nerded out for a bit there. I do like under 8.5 players with a reception. All right, you talked about Hollywood Brown and stuff too. I'm with you. We're gonna buy in on Hollywood Brown just because I think when when push comes to shove, I do think Mahomes trusts him, and I do know he'll be out there the entire game along with Worthy and Kelce, and then Juju Smith-Schuster would run the fourth most amount of snaps. We're gonna be buying on them. They're the best. Juju Smith-Schuster is the best value play. Hopkins. My thing with Hopkins is 9 routes last game. You go back to the game before, only 11. You're not getting a ton. He should be lower than Juju Smith-Schuster, which that's what we have him at now. But I think he's more of a factor in the red zone if you wanted to make the case for him, but he's 4,400. That's just a tall tag. And as far as Jahan Dotson goes, let's be honest. I mean, as Jalen Hurts throwing him the football, he did in the division or the wild card game. Is that when he had his touchdown? But you go since the wild card game, right? He had that touchdown on that first drive. Had 11 yards receiving for 1 touchdown. He ran 16 routes in that game, 21 in the divisional game. And then also last game, he ran another 21. So if you think about it, that's 57 routes ran. And that is 1 catch for 11 yards and a touchdown. He just never gets targeted, man.
A lot of cardio for Mr. Dotson.
You know, the one good thing about him is I got that guy on my lineup. That's what you can tell your significant other. You can be like, I got him in my lineup. You're like, oh, he does nothing. You're like, yeah, that's how it goes most of the time. As far as like Wilson, Watson, and Nico go, I mean, they're fine. But again, only 3 routes last week for Watson, but he should be above Wilson in that case. One thing about Johnny Wilson, he ran 5 routes last game. So, I mean, I guess I could put him above Justin Watson as a little tiebreaker. All right, tight end time. You loved it. You talked about it. If you're just now joining the show, if you're watching on repeat and misheard, one of the best bets that DC found earlier today, or earlier in the show, Noah Gray under 1.5 receptions. Again, 3 routes last week. And like I always say, just because it happened last week does not mean it's going to happen this week. But that was an extremely important game for the Chiefs. As we all know, they had to win that one, right, to get to the Super Bowl. Of course, they're not going to leave anything behind. 3 routes last week for Noah Gray, under 1.5 receptions. Great value to click on there. I go back to Kelce, who was an afterthought last game, right? Like, there's just no way of saying it otherwise. He was a little bit of an afterthought, almost like a decoy in a sense. I don't really love the wide receivers, like, the way that Q Mitchell and Cooper DeJean have looked. I don't like stacking the wide receivers up in this sense, DC. Like, I don't love jamming Worthy, Captain, and Hollywood Brown in the same lineup. I do like kind of separating them. I'll play both in the flex, but it kind of goes into what you were saying. If you play Saquon in the captain, you probably don't want Hurts in the flex. Same kind of way I feel about Worthy and Brown, where I think it's really tough for two wide receivers to make it against this vaunted secondary. But I do feel a lot more comfortable with a guy like Kelsey who can attack those soft spots underneath the defense, kind of find the gaps. And look, it's Travis Kelsey in a February game. I faded him in the Super Bowl last year. That was stupid. I mean, that is something. That was my big stand. I'm against Travis Kelsey. And if you really think about it, like, why are you against a guy who, he plays football for this moment? I mean, he plays football for the Super Bowl. Like, when you're the Chiefs level, you can play for these moments. I'm high on Kelsey. I don't know if 17.1 is high. I think it's high enough, but it should be noted that I'm very high on both these tight ends here, and then Noah Gray we're going to be off on. What do you think?
I'm with you. Love Goddard, love Kelsey. I think I'm just going to X out Noah Gray. Three routes last week. He's not that cheap. I just not going to do it. Love both those guys. They'll be among my highest owned players for sure.
Yep. We can save a lot of time there. We're almost running up on the hour, believe it or not. Talked about defenses. We like both defenses. This is something where I think we can actually project them. I'm going to project the Chiefs defense just a little higher, right? Almost touching. You know what? We're going to get them at the same point. All right. Because I do think both these defenses are very live to be in the winner with only 5 points. They also, they can both create a little bit of havoc. Jalen Hurts himself not being the greatest pure football thrower, in the world. And the Eagles secondary and that, front four can really make plays as well. Both are viable. Both kickers, very viable as well. I do trust Butker a lot more than Jake Elliott, though. Let's run these builds. Let's see the top few teams, and let's head out of here, DC. Anything to say? Do you want to give a score prediction here? I mean, why not, right? It's a Super Bowl. Score prediction never hurt. What do you think?
Yeah, if you're looking for a goofy, the NFL has rigged it for the Chiefs. I like parlaying the Chiefs money line, but the Eagles to cover. So the Chiefs got to win by exactly 1 point. Where you get I don't know what it is, 23-1, something like that, which I can see it happening. So if you're looking to get a little goofy, that's a fun one for the Chiefs to win by exactly 1.
If you really want me to get stupid on that, Sirianni's the type of guy who's going to go for 2 later on in the game if they tie it up. If you really wanted to get in, that is funny. All right, let's go ahead and just see this team here real quick. All right, let me go ahead and just get this up. We're going to see the top team only. I ran a little bit too long here, guys. So, again, code RPS15, 15% off your first purchase here at Run Pure Sports. DC gave us that great little line here. I'm going to go ahead and just get us this one contest send to see what the top team is after adjusting all our projections. This is something that I'll probably post into the Discord for anyone who asks as well. The top team, DC, Kareem Hunt captain. You know what? I can get on board with that. Chiefs defense, you run it back.
I like this team. That's a good team right there.
Yep, and look, you can play Mahomes there too if you really want, but I do like the correlation that these teams have. Any final words that you have to say? Any parting words here for the viewers?
Been a fun football season, and go Chiefs on Sunday.
Go Chiefs on Sunday. For DC, for I, thank you all for joining us. Again, we have shows today, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Don't be afraid to watch all of those. Leave us a like, comment below what you think the final score will be. I'll do a giveaway based on that. Have a great rest of y'all's day, and bye-bye.